gas just jumped again. And everyone's pretending this is normal. You woke up, drove to work, and paid $3.11 instead of $3 per gallon. No, big deal, right? Just 11 cents. That's how they frame it. 11 cents. But here's the part nobody says out loud. When oil spikes, because the Strait of Hormuz tightens and Brent flirts with $100, you're not paying for fuel. You're paying for geopolitical math you never agreed to. 20% of the world's oil flows through a narrow stretch of water most Americans couldn't point to on a map. Tankers stall, insurance premiums jump, futures markets panic, and overnight your commute gets more expensive. Here's the mystery. If the war is thousands of miles away, why does your budget feel like it's under attack? Because you built your life around movement. Let's do humiliating math. The average American commute is roughly 41 miles. Round trip, let's call it 200 miles a week. If your car averages 25 miles per gallon, that's 8 gallons a week just to show up. At $3, that's $24. At $4.50, that's $36. At $6, that's $48, and that's just commuting. Add groceries, school runs, errands, double it now. Imagine $8 or $10 per gallon. Sounds extreme. In 2008, we kissed $4. When oil hit $147, that wasn't fiction, that was math. But here's the trap nobody wants to admit. You don't just pay gas, you finance your entire life around needing it. You have a 30-year mortgage, 35 miles from your office because the house was cheaper. Lower sticker price, bigger backyard, but you locked yourself into distance. You have to. Car payments. Maybe one is $620 a month. The other is $540. Insurance, add registration, add maintenance, add tires, add repairs, add HOA fees, add property taxes, sitting in escrow, add home insurance, creeping up every year. You don't drive because you love driving. You drive because your mortgage demands it. And when oil spikes because missiles fly somewhere most people can't pronounce, your cost of survival rises instantly. Here's the systemic villain. Normalization. America normalized a monthly payment mindset. You don't buy cars. You buy payments. You don't buy houses. You buy payments. You don't buy phones. You buy payments. Everything is a monthly drip. So when gas jumps, it's not an inconvenience. It's pressure on a structure already stretched thin. Let's keep the math simple. If gas goes from $3 to $6 and you burn 16 gallons a week total, that's an extra $48 a week. That's roughly $200 a month. $2,400 a year. Most households don't have $2,400 in liquidity just sitting idle. They have 3% in a 401k. They have equity on paper. They have a Zestimate fantasy. But cash, accessible, deployable cash, thin. And here's where the escalation gets ugly. When oil spikes, shipping costs rise. Groceries climb, flights rise, delivery fees rise, Uber surges, HVAC services rise, insurance companies adjust premiums because repair costs rise. Everything that moves becomes more expensive. And in America, everything moves. So now your $200 monthly gas increase isn't isolated. It bleeds into food. It bleeds into utilities. It bleeds into car insurance. It bleeds into home insurance because replacement materials cost more to transport. And you're still told to just budget better. Budget what? The volatility of global conflict. This is where the cultural belief cracks. We were told if you work hard, buy a house, finance a reliable car, and keep grinding, you're safe, stable, middle class. But stability built on constant fuel consumption is not stability, it's dependency. You think you own your car, but if gas doubles, who controls who? You think you chose suburb life, but if oil hits $120 and commuting eats 15% of your take-home pay, how much choice is left? The war isn't abstract, it's arithmetic. And here's the uncomfortable question nobody in finance TikTok wants to ask. If one shipping lane tightening can destabilize your household budget in 72 hours, were you ever financially stable to begin with? We're not, even at the worst case scenario yet. Analysts whisper $120, $150 oil. If escalation continues, that doesn't mean guarantee. It means possible, and markets price possibility instantly. The hamster wheel doesn't slow down during crises, it spins faster. You work to afford the commute that allows you to work. That's not freedom. That's circular dependency. And the scariest part, most people won't notice. The trap tightening, they'll just swipe the credit card a little more. Carry a balance. Tell themselves it's temporary. Let lifestyle inflation quietly merge with crisis inflation. Because that's what we do. We normalize pressure. And that's exactly how the system survives. Every shock, stop for a second and ask yourself, if oil hits $7 a gallon, what breaks first in your life? The vacation fund, the emergency fund, the retirement contribution, or the illusion that you were We're ever ahead. Now let's collapse the fantasy completely. People love to say, it'll come back down. Maybe, maybe not. That's not the point. The point is exposure. If a temporary spike can destabilize your household, your system was fragile. Look at the average American. Middle-class setup. 2 incomes. $120,000 household salary. Sounds solid. After taxes, health insurance, 401k contributions. Maybe you're taking home $7,000 to $8,000 a month, mortgage, $2,800, property taxes, and escrow adjustments creeping annually. HOA, $250. 2 car payments, $1,100. Car insurance, $300. Utilities, $400. Groceries, $900. Student loans, $600. Subscriptions, phones, streaming, software, $300. Credit card minimums, $400. You're already flirting with the edge. Now add $200, $300 more in gas. Add $150 more in groceries because transport costs ripple. Add insurance hikes. Add higher airline tickets if you visit family. Add random temporary fuel surcharges that never fully disappear. Suddenly you're running a $500 monthly deficit. What fixes that? A raise, overtime, side hustle, or debt. And this is where the systemic villain reveals itself fully. Leverage disguised as lifestyle. The American dream quietly mutated into leveraged living. 30-year mortgage, 5-year auto loans, buy dash now, dash pay, dash later. Zero down financing, PMI HELOC, credit cards. Everything optimized for access, not resilience. We optimized for square footage, not liquidity, for horsepower, not optionality, for status, not flexibility. So when global oil markets twitch, your freedom twitches with them. Here's the part nobody says. Being house poor isn't about the house, it's about the geography your debt locks you into. If gas spikes to $8, can you move closer to work? Not easily. You're tied to a mortgage rate you can't replicate. You're tied to closing costs, realtor fees, market timing risk, school districts, social networks. Debt doesn't just cost money, it costs mobility. And mobility is everything. When volatility hits, you are told to maximize credit score, maximize assets, maximize tax advantages. But very few people maximize liquidity. Liquidity is boring. It doesn't photograph well. It doesn't impress neighbors. It doesn't raise eyebrows at Thanksgiving. But liquidity is power. If gas spikes and you have 6-1-2 months of expenses and cash equivalents, you don't panic. You don't swipe the card. You don't adjust your identity around survival. If your job goes remote because companies/office costs during a slowdown triggered by energy shocks, you can relocate strategically instead of reactively. If your car becomes too expensive to operate daily, you can pivot. But if you're fully optimized around monthly payments, you don't pivot, you endure. And enduring isn't the same as winning. Let's attack the sacred belief directly. Owning a home makes you secure, does it? If property taxes rise with municipal deficits during economic stress, if insurance premiums spike after climate events, if repair materials surge because supply chains tighten, security based on debt is conditional security. Now zoom out. When oil rises sharply, inflation pressures the Federal Reserve. Interest rates stay higher for longer. That affects mortgage refinancing. It affects credit card APRs. It affects auto loan rates. It affects business expansion. It affects hiring. So your gas bill isn't isolated. It's entangled with monetary policy. One geopolitical escalation can freeze hiring, squeeze margins, and increase layoffs in industries. And you're sitting there thinking it's just about the pump price. This is the escalation nobody wants to see. The cost isn't linear, it compounds. Higher fuel gives higher costs, gives lower consumer spending, gives slower growth, gives hiring freezes, gives layoffs, gives tighter credit, gives higher defaults. And in the middle of that spiral is a middle family whose budget was already stretched. Here's the identity shift. You can't control the Strait of Hormuz. You can't control oil futures. You can't control geopolitical escalation. But you can control exposure. Exposure to distance. Exposure to debt. Exposure to monthly fragility. The real luxury isn't a bigger house or a newer SUV. Margin. Margin between income and obligation. Margin between shock and survival. Margin between fear and clarity. When you see the trap, you stop optimizing for appearances and start optimizing for resilience. You stop asking, how much can I afford monthly? And start asking, how exposed am I to variables I don't control? Most people will ignore this. They'll call it doom. They'll say markets recover. They'll trust the cycle. Maybe it does recover. But if one shipping lane can rattle your peace of mind, you were never as stable as you thought. And once you see that, you don't unsee it. You stop being the hamster. You start studying the wheel.